The Bill of Rights are your rights. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. It was written in response to calls from several states for greater constitutional protection for individual liberties. It guarantees civil rights and liberties to the individual, such as freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion. It sets rules for due process of law and reserves all powers not delegated to the federal government to the people or the states. Most of the Bill of Rights grants legal protections for those accused of crimes. It states that serious criminal charges must be started by a grand jury, and a person cannot be tried twice for the same offense or have property taken away without just compensation. People have the right against self-incrimination and cannot be imprisoned without due process of law. Let's take a look at the Bill of Rights, starting with the two most important rights of all, without which it would be impossible to have democracy. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and to petition the government. The First Amendment means you have the freedom to speak and express yourself. You can practice any religion, speak your mind, write or publish your ideas as you like, gather together with others in groups, and request the government to make changes. You have the freedom to believe, say, write, and express whatever you want. Freedom to think and discuss ideas. This is our most basic and important right. The First Amendment is for preventing the government from controlling our speech, beliefs, and ability to protest. It means we cannot be silenced or censored. The Second Amendment guarantees the right to bear arms, the right to own guns, and if necessary, to defend ourselves. To act as a deterrent should government become roused with its natural will to power and strip us of our rights, rendering us, the people, weak and powerless. Once the first two rights are gone, the rest will fall away easily. The Second Amendment means people can own guns and keep them for protection or other legal purposes. The Second Amendment is for ensuring the government can't take away our ability to defend ourselves, and consequently ensures our freedom. Power to the people. Our First Amendment right to free expression and our Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms are probably the two most important assets we the people possess. Without these two rights it would be impossible to maintain a democratic rule of the people for very long. The Third Amendment guarantees protection from quartering of troops. No soldier can live in your house without your okay. The Third Amendment means the military can't force you to let soldiers stay in your home. It may seem strange now, but military personnel could demand to stay in your house in those days. The Third Amendment is for preventing the government from invading your personal space. The Fourth Amendment guarantees protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. Your stuff is private unless the police have a strong reason to check it. The Fourth Amendment means authorities need a good reason, typically with a judge's agreement, to search your belongings or home. The Fourth Amendment is for preventing unfair and random searches. Stopping unfair and random searches. The Fifth Amendment guarantees the right to due process, prevention of double jeopardy, no forced self-incrimination, and ensures compensation for eminent domain. Legal rights and fair treatment if accused. The Fifth Amendment means, if you're in trouble with the law, there are certain rules to ensure you're treated fairly. The government can't just grab your land or property without a fair reason and compensation. The Fifth Amendment is for making sure trials are fair and your property is safe. The Sixth Amendment guarantees, if accused of a crime, you have the right to a quick, fair, public trial, with an impartial jury. You have the right to be informed of the charges, to confront the accuser, and to have counsel. The Sixth Amendment means, you can know what you've been accused of, see who's accusing you, get a lawyer, and have a jury decide if you're guilty or innocent. The Sixth Amendment is for ensuring people aren't secretly or unfairly judged. The Seventh Amendment guarantees the right to a jury trial in civil cases. The Seventh Amendment is for allowing the option for juries of everyday people to decide disagreements in court, not just judges. The Eighth Amendment guarantees protection from cruel and unusual punishment, excessive fines, excessive bail. If you break the law and get convicted of a crime, your punishment should fit the crime, it shouldn't be cruel or unnecessarily harsh. The Eighth Amendment is for preventing overly severe or unreasonable punishments. The Ninth Amendment guarantees that these aren't our only rights. Just because a right isn't listed in the Constitution doesn't mean people don't have that right. The Ninth Amendment means letting people know that the Bill of Rights doesn't list every single right, but that doesn't mean other rights don't exist. The Ninth Amendment is for making sure people understand they have more rights than just the ones listed. The 10th Amendment guarantees powers not given to the U.S. government are for the states or people to decide. It limits the scope of federal authority. The 10th Amendment means, if the Constitution doesn't say the U.S. government, federal government, can do something, then states or individuals get to decide. The 10th Amendment is for making sure the federal government doesn't get too powerful, leaving more power to the states to decide their own laws. All in all, the Bill of Rights is about making sure the government respects everyone's rights and doesn't become too powerful. It was created because people remember times when governments were more powerful. Power corrupts. When a government became too powerful, they were always abusive. The founders sought to ensure that individual freedoms and states' rights were strongly protected against federal intrusion. There was a genuine fear of the potential for government overreach and tyranny. The Bill of Rights became law on December 15, 1791, and with it, modern democracy was born, and has since spread around the world, becoming the predominant systems of governance worldwide. The term democracy is derived from two Greek words, demos, people, and kratia, rule or power. Thus, it literally means rule by the people. Indirect or representative democracy, this is when citizens elect representatives who then make decisions on their behalf. This is the most common form of democracy in today's world. The United States is a representative democracy because the people elect their representatives to make decisions on their behalf. The United States is also a constitutional republic because it operates under a constitution that provides a framework for governance. When people refer to the U.S. as a democracy, they're often emphasizing the democratic principles upon which the nation operates. But, to be precise, it would be more accurate to say the U.S. is a representative democracy within a constitutional republic. It has been this way for almost 250 years now. But for the vast majority of human history, the prevailing systems of governance have been tyranny, totalitarianism, authoritarianism, and dictatorships of monarchy. Or centuries of feudalism where the majority of the world's citizens were little more than slaves. This past 250 or so years has been the exception, and there is no guarantee the tyrants won't come back. Would-be tyrants are constantly looking for ways to assert their authoritarian ways and subjugate the world's population to serve them once more, or worse. They currently operate under the banner of Marxism, socialism, communism. They sell to the younger generations as a means of equality and wealth redistribution. But this is a trick. They seek to exploit the younger generations to foment revolution for the purpose of tearing down existing power structures and nations. To seize a private property, not for some utopian public domain, but to put themselves in absolute control once private property has been abolished. If we all own nothing, with no means of ever owning anything again, we will be powerless, we will be little more than slaves. This is a recipe they have attempted over and over, in France, Russia, China, and elsewhere in Asia, Latin America, including Cuba and Venezuela. They get a little bit closer to their goal each time. But their main prize, for quite some time now, has been the United States. They spend an enormous amount of resources on propaganda to convince us to give up our rights laid down in the Bill of Rights, by attempting to convince us we should fear each other. The Founding Fathers were so adamant about limiting the power of government, they feared government, and spent a great deal of time and effort carefully crafting the Bill of Rights expressly for this purpose, and here we are witnessing that tyranny firsthand. Rather than fear the government, they who hold all the power, are trying to convince us that we need them to protect us. To protect us from each other. We shouldn't fear each other more than we fear the government. They divide us so that they may more easily conquer us. We cannot allow them to do this. To fear words more than the threat of being silenced, of being censored. Or to fear your neighbor or others from a different race, or religion, or sexual orientation, or gender, or just because they listen to a different kind of music. We have a lot more in common with our neighbors and fellow citizens of any stripe than we do with the billionaires who pit us against each other. We can't let that happen. We need to be united. They would gladly disarm us, leaving us defenseless against what the tyranny they have in store. If only they could disarm us. We can't let that happen. Don't take my word for it. To borrow a phrase from the crypto industry, do your own research. Ask questions and see the whole picture. Even when they are telling the truth, they are not always telling you the whole truth. Lies by omission are the secret weapon of propaganda. Do your own research and stay informed. Knowledge is power. And don't be divided and conquered. Thanks for watching.